All right, for more on this, we're now being joined live by Raymond E. Vickery from Washington, D.C. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary for Commerce for Trade Development and Senior Associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. Let's get right into it. Of course, India's statement has painted a very clear picture of the duplicity that we're seeing playing out here. It has said it is revealing that the very nations criticizing India themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, and this is, I believe, the pertinent bit here, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. What is your take on this whole situation?
Well, thanks very much for having me. It's always a privilege to be on WION. It seems to me that the relationship between the United States and India must be kept in mind when dealing with any question, import of Russian oil, tariffs. There is no problem facing the world that can't be helped by U.S.-India cooperation. That has to do with climate change, has to do with terrorism, whether it's from Pakistan or wherever, China, economic development. All of these require that cooperation, and many of us on both sides, India and the U.S., have been working on this to promote this friendship for 30 years. That having been said, India is going to have to decide for itself what it will do in regard to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And that includes what is in its interest long term in regard to oil and energy. The reality is that energy, that oil from Russia was an insignificant part of Indian imports up until the time of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. India is now one of the leading purchasers of it. It is true that the U.S. imports some vital components in regard to uranium, but its total trade is only about $6 billion as compared to the trade of India, which is approaching over 200 when you have goods and services. It is not the case that the United States is in fact in a large trade relationship. The EU has decreased its trade very much with Russia since 2022. It was very much more integrated than India or the United States with Russia. But India has to decide what it's going to do in regard to the flagrant violation of the UN Charter with Russian invasion of Ukraine. As a great democracy, I would argue that India would want to promote the kinds of standards which are in the UN Charter. And I note your statement from Russia about U.S. colonialism. I think that that's really absurd in view of the fact that Russia has invaded a sovereign nation, Ukraine, in violation of the UN Charter, the first major breach since World War II. But these matters between India and the U.S. have to be worked out in the spirit of friendship. They can't be done on a basis of tweet or social postings. And unfortunately, this administration has gotten away from relationship building, which is what we've been working on for 30, 35 years, and has gone to the trade approach.
Mr. Vickery, I've heard your thoughts on the matter, and I appreciate, of course, the thought of friendship between the countries, that should remain. And of course, this can't be dealt on social media, but the posts seem to be coming from the US. India is now forced to respond, and it has been responding in a similar platform. I just want to bring your attention to where it started from, 2022, which you also referenced in your initial response. US had, in fact, encouraged India to buy oil from Russia, even if that keeps the global energy market stable. And this is something even the US ambassador had hinted at in May 2024 to India, US ambassador to India. What kind of do you find this to be some kind of a U-turn or a dichotomy at this point, or is it just a textbook case of bullying to get India to the negotiating table within the time limits that US has been setting?
Well, it's no question that it's a big change from the approach of the Biden administration. There was an attempt to be able to keep the price down, the revenue that would be coming to Russia from these sales. I don't think it's fair to say that there was an encouragement at that time to buy Russian oil. But there was an accommodation to try to work it out, to try to deprive Russia of revenue to conduct the war, while at the same time being sensitive to Indian needs. What has happened with this U-turn, of course, is it's driven a stake between the United States and India on this issue, which is one which is very sensitive, which could be solved in other ways. There's no shortage of oil in the world. The only question is one of price. The advantage that India gets from the lower price in regard to Russian oil is really minuscule when it's compared to the GDP of India or even the current account deficit. It is important, particularly for some industrialists, but as far as affecting overall growth or even the price of oil, gasoline in India, it's not very, very significant. So two great democracies like India and the U.S. ought to be able to work this out. One way, of course, is increasing energy from other places, such as the United States, which is the world's largest producer of oil these days.
Mr. Vikri, I hear your thoughts on the matter. And of course, when it comes to national interests, every country is looking out for theirs and India is looking out for its own, as is natural. And of course, as of now, we'll need to wait and watch what statement comes from the US, because India has responded in 6 points, giving details and data to substantiate all that India stands for at this point when it comes to its dealings with Russia. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast here, sir. That was Raymond Vikri joining us from Washington, D.C.
Thanks for having me.